Fuck yes, I'm sitting here holding my devil horns high. The heavy metal devil horns. I did a rhyme with devil horns and kettle corn back in the day. Rock shows heavy metal form. Something big wax, I get it popping like kettle corn. Yeah, man. Rock shows heavy metal form. Fans throwing up their devil horns. Losses, we never settle for them. There's something else in there too. But anyway, speaking of metal, you know how people say that phrase, it must have fell on deaf ears. Yeah, I said something, but I felt like it fell on deaf ears. Well, if you say anything to me, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I had to turn up that fucking metal thing really loud. If you are an average person, if you have average hearing out there, if you were to have listened to that podcast jingle by the one and only Patient Zero as loud as I just did in my headphones, your ears would probably ring for a week. Now, for me, my ears pretty much just always ring. My point is, I'm sure that my hearing is not that great. My eyesight is not that great. My back is fucked up, and I am falling apart. Falling apart at the seams. That said, don't you worry about me. Don't cry for me, Argentina. I will be on the Cookout Chronicles tour, jumping around like a maniac. Like a pubescent teen who just heard metal for the first time. That's how energetic I will be during these performances. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The energy is going to switch throughout the show. It's going to be a good energy, a positive energy. It might have some somberness at times. It might have some upliftingness at times. Upliftingness, is that a word? I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. It won't fall on deaf ears that night. That shit will be loud as fuck. It's going to be loud. I don't actually know for a fact that it's going to be loud. I don't know about your local noise ordinance. I don't know what the allotted decibel level maximum is in your area, in your vicinity, in your town, in your place of residence. But what I do know is I've been preparing a little bit for the show. I've been preparing my set a little bit. God damn it, my roommate's giving a guitar lesson in the other room. I just hear people playing chords and licks. I might have to turn this up even louder. I might have to drown that out. Holy shit. You probably didn't notice that turn up, but I just turned up the volume in my headphones. Trying to drown out the sound of chords, licks, and shredding in the adjacent room. Using my own voice. So if I talk more than normal, forgive me. How would I talk less? It's just me talking. See, there was a pause right there. There's a nice long pause. Anyway, I've been preparing a little bit for this set. We're going to have I don't know, maybe I shouldn't give anything away. Maybe I shouldn't give anything away about the set. But, yeah. What do I have to talk about today? You know, I had a memory. I had a memory pop into my head yesterday. Somebody used the phrase chickens coming home to roost. And for some reason, I was like, what the fuck is roost? And I found out roost meant where chickens go to sleep together. Not fornicate, not have sex, just sleep. And I guess that's where we get the phrase rooster. I guess roosters just they go home and roost and sleep with other chickens. I don't really know. But I thought about that phrase, and for some reason this old memory came back to me. Now, some of you guys might be too young to remember a hip-hop group called House of Pain. I'm sure you've probably heard their song Jump Around, at the very least. Their main rapper was a rapper named Everlast. They got production from DJ Muggs, legendary early 90s producer who also produced for Cypress Hill. But, you know, if you equated them to Cypress Hill, Everlast was like Be Real, the main rapper. And then there was a rapper named Danny Boy, who, to be honest with you, I don't even really know what he did. He wasn't even as present as Sendog was. You know, he didn't I don't know what he did. I guess he rapped on some of the songs. I didn't know their stuff that well, to be honest with you. I highly doubt they'll ever hear this podcast. But if they did, I apologize. But when I first moved to Los Angeles, I was hanging out with Andy Milonakis. Andy Milonakis from the Andy Milonakis Show. And I don't mean to sound like some fucking dude name dropping. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm not trying to impress you right now. I'm just telling you about a memory I have that came up in my head yesterday. I was at this studio. The studio was that of DJ Lethal. Name drop again. He was their DJ. He was House of Pain's DJ. Also the DJ for the band Limp Bizkit. Name dropping again. But I was drinking with Andy Milonakis. We were drinking out of some kind of bottle. We were drinking like grappa. I don't know if it was grappa, but it was some kind of like liqueur or wine. I think it was a liqueur that came from Greece that Andy Milonakis had got from Greece. We were passing a bottle back and forth, getting fucked up at this studio. And I remember I don't know if it was me or him, but one of us tried to pass it to this dude, Danny Boy. Danny Boy was, he didn't look like a boy. He was more like Danny Man. He's probably 10 years older than me. I don't know. 15 years old? I don't know how much older than me he is. But, yeah, probably more than 10, huh? Probably more than 10 years older than me. But either me or Andy passed him this bottle, and he's like, nah, man, I don't drink. And I remember at that moment, because, I was well aware that I had a very strong like for the booze. By that point in my life, I was well aware. I was many years deep already into knowing that I really liked alcohol. And I remember when I saw him say that, I remember thinking to myself, like, first of all, he's not saying that because he just doesn't drink. Like, he's not like Donald Trump or Adolf Hitler, both people who never drank in their life. Never experienced alcohol. Which is fucking weird if you ask me. I mean, there's something to be said about that for strength. You have a certain level of strength if you can live in our society and never, not once, try alcoholic beverages. Like just seeing what it's like. Experiencing new things. Not once in your life. There's something to be said about being a strong person if you can do that because, I was telling somebody the other day, maybe I even said it on the podcast before, this fucking piece of goddamn shit computer, man, it's fucking pissing me off. I have the nicest goddamn computer in the world, and it still gets errors. I've been saying this for podcast after podcast, and you know what? Forget what it's not the computer's fault, it's my fault. I need to fix something. The computer's going to do what it's going to do. It's not going to all of a sudden fix itself. The Geek Squad doesn't come unless you call them. You know what I mean? So I need to get rid of this anger and channel it back at myself in a helpful way and have myself fix my computer. Instead of yelling about the errors, as I've been doing for years on this podcast, it seems. How about I do something positive about it? Where was I at? I was talking about I was talking about people that don't drink. All right, I'm going off on like 6 tangents here, but let me see if I can pull this all together. There's something to be said about people that never ever try alcohol in our society, because I was telling somebody the other day that it almost like once you get to be in your like late 30s, it's almost like it's set up for you to be an alcoholic. The whole thing, the way that our pop culture works, if you watch television, if you watch popular movies, if you just live in our culture, it's like every weekend you go out and we all have this one drug. We all have this one drug that everybody loves. It kind of makes us dumb and makes us have fun and makes us feel good, is alcohol. It's the one that's accepted. I mean, obviously caffeine and shit like that is accepted, but the one like hard drug, and yes, it is a hard drug. People die and they black out and shit. I mean, if that's not hard, if you can do a drug and then not remember anything you did, I would call that a hard drug. But with the way our society is set up, it's almost like it sets you up to be an alcoholic. I don't know. It's 10% of our population in America have drinking problems, and I was saying the other day that I'm shocked that it's that low. television programs you watch, even The Simpsons. Homer Simpson would just continuously drink beer. He would never be drunk at home. He'd only get drunk at Moe's, if I remember correctly. But I don't know. It's just like it's so accepted in our society to drink that it's pretty incredible that people don't, especially once. Well, like that's almost suspect. It's like, dude, you only get one life. You don't want to experience stuff. You don't want to see what stuff is like. I don't necessarily trust people that have never drank before. I think I saw somebody else say that. But anyway, yeah, it's almost like, you know, people from the hood, they kind of see it as like the system is set up to send you to jail or be killed. Like you're just born into this video game where the most likely outcome is that. If you relate that to greater society, I feel like there's the outcome is almost set up for you to be a heavy drinker. And yeah, so anyway, we're at this thing, and this dude Danny Boy is like, he's like, nah, man, I don't drink. And the reason I went off on that whole tangent is because he didn't say it in a way where he meant like, I don't drink because that's not something I've ever done. I'm not a drinker. I've never drank. That's just not, I choose since an early age not to drink because that seems like something I wouldn't want to do. I don't base it on experience. That's not what he said it like. He said it clearly with a clear inflection, meaning that he certainly knew what it was like to drink. And he probably decided after having some problems with the drinks that he didn't want to drink anymore. And I remember at that moment having this thing. Sorry about that. The computer fucking fucked up again, but I just realized that I'm trying to do too many things. There's like a bunch of stuff processing in the background on my computer, so no wonder it's having problems. Anyway, he didn't say that he didn't want to drink the bottle. I drank the vodka bottles. I drank the vodka bottles. He didn't say that he didn't want to drink the bottle because that's not something that he does. He said it in a way that, what's the word I'm looking for? Insinuated that he had a drinking problem. That he was an alcoholic. And he said in a way that he can't do that anymore. Those days are in his past and he can't do it anymore. And I remember looking at him, and there was some weird thing happened. Like, you know, you get old and you forget about you forget about a lot of things that happened. There are a lot of nights that don't remember. You could tell me everything that happened. I'd be like, I just don't remember that. My brain deleted that memory. My brain put that memory into my trash can if my brain was a computer and then hit empty. That shit's gone forever. Like your circumcised foreskin. Am I right? That shit is gone. But there are certain memories that are just like, your brain takes a screenshot. Your brain hits fucking Apple Shift 3. Your brain hits an Apple Shift 3 real quick and just takes a screenshot of that memory, and there's something that etches it into your brain permanently. And that happened at that moment when Danny Boy from House of Pain looked at us and said, No, I don't drink. And what happened was I saw that, and in my head I looked at him and said, that's me in the future. I'm going to have to be like that. There's going to come a point where I'm going to be him. It gets to a point in your life where you just can't fucking rage with alcohol anymore. I mean, you can, but there's that fork in the road where you either continue to rage and really, I guess, give into it. Just let it take you. Just let it take you into basically homelessness and giving up, I guess. I guess that fork kind of exists for years. You know, it depends how far down you let yourself get. But I just remember looking at him and thinking, and like something snapped, and I was like, that's me, and I'm going to have to be like that. One day, I'm going to have to be like that. Because I could sense that I had a thing where it was only going to get worse. I don't know. I do not know. I don't mean to bring you guys down. I know that a lot of you guys are just normal, enjoy an occasional craft beer here and there, but for people like me, that shit can catch up, you know? God, I don't feel like talking about this. You know what happens on this podcast, man? I start thinking about the fact that anybody can listen to it. I think about people in my life that might listen to this podcast, and it makes me want to just delete everything I just said. Because I don't, I'm not fucking crazy. Like if I started drinking right now, if you handed me a beer and some fucking whiskey or whatever, like I'm not going to all of a sudden be fucking crazy. You know what I mean? I could easily go back to drinking and be a relatively normal person. I'm not fucking crazy. Maybe I am. I do sit here and talk to my fucking self. So maybe I am crazy. I don't know. But self-consciousness ruins the podcast. When I start to think about, oh, somebody might be listening to this that knows me personally and they might think differently about me. It ruins the fucking podcast in my brain because it ruins the free-form, improvisational spirit that is required to ramble for an hour. It's the same thing with music. If there's a beat playing in the studio and you're coming up with a chorus or coming up with a theme or coming up with some fucking verses, if there's somebody in the studio that's fucking up your vibe and making you self-conscious, you're not going to be able to come up with shit right. Right now, it's like that, except the person that is in the studio is somebody that I'm thinking of in regular life. They're not even here. I just know that after the fact, they're going to be there. This is super weird. What else? Was there any additional points I was going to make about that alcohol shit? I don't fucking know, man. I just remember hearing chickens come home to roost. Chickens coming home to roost was the phrase that I heard somewhere that made me think of that. All of a sudden put that memory. Because they did, in fact, come home to roost. That was probably 10 years, like 9 years ago? 8 years ago? And the chickens, they were wandering far from home. And they wondered to themselves, where will I roost? Where? For years and years, they went to distant lands, distant farms in faraway pastures. And they said to themselves, when I roost here, it just doesn't feel comfortable. I don't want to use this barn as my roosting place. When I roost, I rest. And when I rest, I roost. And this is not the place where I want to roost. And this year, after making a big circle, after being a chicken version of a boomerang, they ended up right back here at home. And they said, you know what? It is indeed time to roost. And when I heard that, it made me think of that memory. God, there's a fucking jam session going on in the next room. This is taking me back to when I used to do my podcast in the old spot, the rehearsal studio. And I used to have the metal bands on either side of me. I used to have a studio. Me and my boy Bailey split a studio. But it was really a rehearsal space. And on either side of the walls, there were metal bands. And I'd try to do my podcast in the middle of the night when nobody was there. And hence, lo and behold, or whatever you want to say. Hence was the wrong word there. Lo and behold, every time I wanted to do the podcast, they'd show up with their goddamn heavy metal music. And the scene would feel like the Aerosmith and Run DMC Walk This Way video. Just two people vying for audio space. Wanted to talk about God, this is another person. I'm not even going to mention who this person is. I just want to tell you a funny thing. In my opinion, it's funny. I have a friend who me and another friend now talk about. Behind their back. We talk about this person behind their back. And the reason we do because that person has an interesting way of telling stories. This person will tell the following story. And this will be the story. So check it out, man. Check it out. I went to Europe a couple years ago. I was in Italy. I went to this steak restaurant. And while I was there, I ordered a steak. And when the steak got there, I mean, it looked incredible. It looked amazing. Like, you know, like when you see a steak, you're like, man, like that looks good. Like, imagine that, but like better than any steak you've ever seen. Like, you've never seen a steak that looks this juicy. I mean, the chef must have just really thought about preparing it so it looked amazing. And you get your steak knife and you cut into the steak, and it's just like any steak that you've ever cut into. Like, it's just, it doesn't even feel like a steak. It's just so tender and juicy. This steak is incredible. And I'm telling you, man, you gotta believe me. You gotta understand that this steak, I mean, and then of course you eat the steak. And I don't know what they did to it. I don't know how they cooked it or prepared it, but there's just something about it that it's just like think about like the best steak that you've had or the best chefs. It must be the best chef in the world. It must be the best cooker of steak in the world, because when you eat this steak, it's not like any other steak. Then he looks at you. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm telling you, man. Like it's that good. It's that good of a steak. When I was done, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how good the steak and that's the whole. That's how he tells a story. Like, every story that this dude tells is like that. God, I have so much self-consciousness on this episode of my podcast. I mean, just first I was thinking about somebody that might listen to this podcast. And now I'm straight up talking about somebody. I'm straight up talking about somebody behind their back, but not really behind their back, because this is a public forum. Not really a forum. A forum, more than one person gets to speak, right? If this was a forum, there'd be an opportunity for others to have their voices heard. And let me tell you something, not in my fucking world. This podcast is not a democracy. This podcast is a dictatorship. I run this podcast. What'd you have to say about that? Oh, you don't have a fucking microphone or access to the recording device that I'm on? Sorry to hear about that. You can voice your complaints, beatsforwax@gmail.com. But that's just to me. You don't get to voice your complaints to the listeners, the whole community, which is this podcast. It's just me. I'm a dictator. I'm Gaddafi. I'm Hussein. I'm what Trump will be. God damn it, been fucking yelling all fucking morning. Voice going to shit. So I told that story about the description of the steak. And I've just had a lot of thoughts this week. Oh, a really quick one to relate to you. I thought was kind of weird. It was my nephew's birthday this past weekend. Of course, this past weekend was Halloween. And Halloween fell on a Monday this year. So that means when Halloween falls on a Monday, that means Halloween is long as shit. My boy Zoe, who is a DJ, he's a professional DJ. He has several gigs every week. He has like 3 or 4 that he does every week, and when it's a special week, there's always added ones. This fool did a Halloween party. He DJ'd a Halloween party on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 2 on Sunday, and on Monday on Halloween night. And he's just like, dude, fuck Halloween. He's just like, fuck Halloween. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Halloween was so long this year. Halloween was just this week-long celebration. Not for me. I went to one Halloween party and I put Christmas paper on myself and said I was a Christmas present. That's what I did for Halloween. I actually had a great time. But My nephew's birthday is right around Halloween, so his birthday party at the park with all his little friends was a Halloween party. All the kids dressed up in their Halloween costumes, but they ate birthday cake. Manny's birthday will always be associated with Halloween. Not to mention his older brother, Max, was born on January 2nd, so obviously his birthday will always be associated with New Year's. Anywho, my brother, they always get a pinata. They love doing pinatas for the birthday parties. So we hung the pinata up in a tree in the middle of the park, but what was weird, in my opinion, and the opinion of a couple other people there, was the pinata was shaped like Darth Vader. It looked like a little Darth Vader. And when you hung the pinata up in a tree, I mean, it looked like you were hanging a guy in a tree. And this guy was, I mean, you know, arguably black. Not only is Darth Vader literally the color jet black, but in the version I remember, he was played by a black man, James Earl Jones. And it looked like there was a black dude hanging from a tree. And I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm not saying that to be anything. I just wrote it down to talk about. To make you think, is that racist? I don't know. Certainly felt like it to me. Just felt a little fucked up. I don't even think when you do a pinata, especially if you're hanging a pinata from your ceiling, it's one thing. If you're hanging a pinata from your ceiling in your house, it looks like the pinata killed itself. Looks more like a suicide. Now, black or not, regardless, when you hang a pinata by a tree, that looks like somebody else hung them by a tree. You don't commit suicide on a tree. You commit suicide in a closet. You get a SpongeBob pinata. You put him inside, it looks like SpongeBob killed himself. You put SpongeBob outside on a tree, it still looks like, even now SpongeBob is a little bit human-like. He's got hands and feet. You want to get like a straight up, like you want to get like a Pac-Man ghost or something like that. What other things? Like a non-human-y one, you know, like a what are kids like a Minions are kind of human-like too. I guess most cartoon characters are kind of human-like. When you hang them by a tree, it looks like it got lynched. No matter who the pinata is. I mean, you put SpongeBob up there, it looks like the whole community was against him. I don't know. I just felt especially fucked up for some reason to me. It just didn't seem right. I mean, not to mention that you already got Darth Vader hanging by the tree. Then you got a bunch of little kids beating him with a stick. Like it wasn't enough to hang him. You got to knock his fucking legs off. I don't know why I'm talking about this. It's just what it is, man. It's just what it is. It's just how I felt at the time. Darth Vader. And so that's my advice to you, future parents of America. If you have your party, you know what you do. I think that when you get a pinata, if you're doing it at the park and you're hanging the pinata by a tree, get like a horse. Get like a pinata shaped like a unicorn. Some kind of animal that walks on all fours. Don't get one with arms and legs. If you get a pinata that has arms and legs and you're in a park and you hang it from a tree, if you took American history, if you just know about American history, it just seems fucked up. But, you know, black character or not, it seems fucked up. But it's even worse to me. I don't know. Something about that Darth Vader one. Just, I didn't take a picture of it. When I go to my nephew's birthday parties, I'll take pictures. I'll be like, oh, isn't that cute? I should take a picture of that. Oh, isn't that cute? I'll take a little video of that. Darth Vader hanging from the tree with them beating him with a stick. I was like, you know what? That'll just be for memory. And you know, it'll live on permanently. The story will live on permanently via Wax's podcast. Speaking of stories being lived on permanently, I can't really explain why I came across this because it doesn't really make sense even to me. But a couple days ago, I was in kind of a YouTube wormhole, as we all get into. You're on YouTube and you just look at related videos. God, they're fucking jamming. It's hard for me to hear these guys raging on guitar and continue with my own thoughts because I just start to think about what they're doing. Kind of killing it right now. Boom, boom, boom. They're just playing some like bluesy shit. What the fuck was I talking about? Okay, I'm in the YouTube wormhole. I'm going to have to visualize this in my head as an actual wormhole through space. I have to get deep into my own head to not think about what they're doing in the room next door. They're playing like some Grateful Dead sound and shit. It sounds good. I really just want to put down this microphone and take off my shirt and dance with no rhythm. Like people used to do to the Grateful Dead. Anyway, what was I talking about? Wormhole, YouTube wormhole. So a couple days ago, I'm in this weird YouTube wormhole, and I end up watching all this old footage. Like, and when I say that, the one that really stopped me in my tracks, after watching similar videos, the one that stopped me in my tracks is a video from like the late 1950s or early 1960s. It was like Beach Boys era. The era of America that would be considered like Route 66 Americana. Hamburgers are 10 cents. Coca-Cola is just starting to become like a popularized ass brand. Probably the idea of things being brands that are big is actually probably new at that point, especially when it comes to food. But just like the McDonald's is just starting. The Beach Boys are putting out their first hits. People are fucking with hula hoops on the beach. The bikini was probably just invented in California. I don't even know if that's true. But that era, the late 1950s, early 1960s, people slow dancing to Earth Angel, would you be mine? You know, like 50s diners. But a tad bit later than the 50s diner, like 61. More like, I'm going to take you surfing safari. Early Beach Boys. Jan and Dean, surfing, California shit. I'm on YouTube and I see a video that's from that era. And it's a tourist video. It's a tourist video, like a promotional video for Panama City Beach, Florida at that time. And it's promoting like you should come here to visit and spend your money, basically. They had casinos, they had attractions, they had beaches. And you see all these people, you see like, and you hear that old narrator voice. And just enough for the kids. I can't do it. We have the beautiful beaches, and who doesn't like to build a sandcastle? That was a quote. And who doesn't like to build sandcastles? And it showed a kid with his little plastic shovel. Shit, at that time it might even been a metal or wooden shovel. I don't know if they had perfected plastic by then. You know, plastic is pretty new. But you see that kid building the sandcastle. That kid's 7 years old in 1960. I mean, that motherfucker's what, 63 now? My point is I'm watching that video of all these people having these great times. Riding a Ferris wheel, eating cotton candy, jumping on trampolines. Building sandcastles. I mean, forget the 63, for the guy's parents that are there with him. Because that's more what I'm related to at this point. I'd be the one that had a 7-year-old. You know what I mean? And you just watch it and like it looks all old. All these people having fun. And like the more that I was watching videos like that, that was just the one that stopped me in my tracks for some weird reason. It just started to freak me out, man. You know, as human beings, we've only been able to watch footage of other human beings from the past for like 100 years. For like 100 years, we've had the ability to record something that other people later can view. Most human beings that have ever lived have not had that luxury, nor have they had the luxury of flying or all these amazing things that we do now. And I think it's fucking weird to look at old footage like that. It started to freak me out because you're sitting there watching a screen full of people enjoying their lives or not enjoying that. Who knows what's going on inside their heads, but they're all fucking dead now. Or they're senior citizens now. And it just makes you think like, man, that wasn't even that long ago. Everybody's dead. It just started making me think about death and started making me freak out. Felt like I was watching a bunch of ghosts. And I've felt that feeling before while watching old footage like that. There's a crazy-ass video If you get bored, I can't remember what the fucking song is called, but there's a guy named Quantic. If you look up Quantic, Quantic, I think his most viewed video is this video where it's just an instrumental with this old footage from like the early 1907, and it's just a shot of a guy. It's like as if you put a fucking GoPro on the front of your car pointing forward. It's just this person driving through San Francisco at that time, and it is fucking crazy to watch. And it's fucking eerie. I don't know. It's eerie. Like, it's like, yeah, that shit really happened. That was a real moment. That was the present when they were filming that. But it's like, it might as well be fiction. It's just some shit that happened in 1907. It's just, for all I know, that's a fucking moving painting. I don't know. It just freaks me out. I can't really explain it. Not the greatest story ever told, but maybe some of you will relate. Maybe some of you won't. Maybe some of you can chew my fucking balls. Questions and shoutouts coming right up. All right, folks, I am back, and I'm about to do the questions. I'm about to do the shoutouts. About to do the questions. Okay, where are we at? Shoutouts. Shoutouts as fucking Phil Lesh and Bob Weir and Jerry Garcia fucking jam next to me, doing a classic 1/4 pattern over and over again, like all hippies do. Just jamming their little hearts out. Doom doop doop doom doop doom doop doop doom doop doom doop doop doom doop. All right, we got Nick Dillinger from New York, who's opening the Amityville show on December 9th. December 9th, y'all. We got Nick Dillinger opening the show. He is a fan, and he's excited about the show. I was really happy to receive that email. Thank you, Nick, for opening the show. That's a thank you that's meant for the future. Speaking of eeriness and ghosts and things that happened in the past and things that are recorded for us to listen to in the future, listen to this on December 10th. And I'll be thanking Nick Dillinger for something that happened yesterday. It all depends on when you listen. But it seems ridiculous to thank him now, because we don't know for sure it's going to happen. But it's on the books. December 9th, Amityville, New York, Nick Dillinger opening. And I appreciate it, Nick. I appreciate the email. You know, I was telling a friend of mine, there's people that are very excited to open for me in the Palmer Squares on this Cookout Chronicles tour. And I remember my old band, when acts would come to Baltimore, we would always try to open, and we'd be excited to open. Be like, blah, blah, blah's here. Guess who's fucking opening for him? And now I'm the goddamn headliner on this tour. And I probably am less excited. I'm not only am I opening one show, I'm headlining every show. And you just get, is it ever enough, Mike? Is it ever enough? You know what I mean? Is it ever enough? Will you ever be satisfied? I don't know. The other day, when I used to live in San Diego, about 9 or 10 years ago, I lived in San Diego for like a year and a half. And right before I moved to LA, anybody who lives down there knows if you're heading south on the 5, in between, right before SeaWorld Drive, but after Garnett, if it's a beautiful sunny day and you're headed south on the 5, you look to your right, and then in the middle of the bay, there's like a little peninsula that looks like an island, but it's actually a peninsula in the middle of the bay, this small little place. And it's kind of like a nice trailer park in the middle of the bay in San Diego. And it looks fucking amazing when it's nice outside. It's just this beautiful sun shining down on this weird little awesome looking trailer park. And the word trailer park sounds worse than it is. It's like probably the nicest and most expensive trailer park in the United States. It's in the middle of the bay. It looks dope as fuck. And I used to be like, man, when I quote unquote make it, I'm going to move to that motherfucker, man. I'm going to fucking live over there. And when I wake up and have my coffee in the morning, I'm going to walk outside. And in my backyard, there's going to be a little bit of sand. And then there's going to be that fucking Mission Bay right there. Mission fucking Bay. And, I moved to L.A. And after a while, at one point, I kind of started to make it, quote unquote. And even during that point, it was like, things aren't quite what they seem. Things aren't as amazing as I thought they would be. The things you anticipate to be amazing aren't necessarily, it's not like your life is one way, then you achieve a thing and your life is another way. It's not like you get a record deal, then you're happy. It just doesn't work like that. And I remember having a realization, I came back to San Diego, this was years and years later after the record deal and shit. And I realized I had never actually I'd never actually looked at the trailer park really. Like I was like, fuck it, man. Let's see how much it costs to like rent or buy. Can you buy these things? You just rent them? I don't know how this works. So I drove over there. And when you actually get over to that trailer park in the middle of Mission Bay and you're on it and on there, you're like, man, this fucking place is just like this is a trailer park. This place ain't that dope. Yeah, it looked dope. It looked amazing from afar, didn't it? All the sun shining on it. But when you're right under the sun and it's shining directly on the top of your head, you can't really see it that way. You're looking back at that road like, man, why didn't I just have fun while I was driving? Am I right? Didn't seem, I just saw some kind of parallel there. Anyway, why the fuck did I start talking about that? Sheena K from Brooklyn. Sheena K from Brooklyn. Sheena K from Brooklyn. We got Zanish P P from Chicago, who is coming to the Chicago show, the hometown of the Palmer Squares. I believe that is on, I don't know right off the top of my head what date that is. I think it's definitely like late November. It's in late November at some point, and y'all should go. wax.com.com. I got tickets to all this shit. New show added. I got to announce this. New show was just added today officially. Lafayette, Indiana, y'all. Lafayette, Indiana. Let me actually, it's right here. It's right fucking here, Mike, right? Lafayette, Indiana is the 29th of November, which is 3 days after the Chicago show. The Chicago show falls on the 26th of November at Subterranean. We got quite a lineup of festivities, y'all. Quite a lineup of festivities. By the way, on the 24th of 11, the 24th of November, which is the 11th month of the year, 2016. It's Thanksgiving this year, and we don't have a show, and we'll be in between Sioux Falls, South Dakota. No, Denver and Sioux Falls. And if you drive a certain way, you can kind of make Mount Rushmore that midpoint. I think that I'm going to eat Thanksgiving dinner at Mount Rushmore this year, y'all. Might be the last year to see it with the current 4 presidents. If Donald Trump does win the election, my prediction is his first act will be to destroy Roosevelt's face and put his own face on there. That's just a guess. I don't know if that's true. It's just a guess. And I apologize if that... dude, all right. This is the only thing I'm going to say about the election today. This is the only thing I'm going to say. When somebody says something about Donald Trump, like what I just said, if you support Donald Trump, fucking chill out. Fucking chill out. Even if you support a candidate, see that they're not perfect. See that they have things you can joke about, motherfucker. Chill out. If you make a joke, literally with no real political implications, I mean, y'all know, if you listen to this podcast, you know I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but besides what I think about these people politically, personally, I'm just trying to I'm attempting to pay as little bit of attention to it as possible, but it's hard to do. It's fucking interesting. But if I say something like Donald Trump is going to fucking put his face on Mount Rushmore, even if you like Donald Trump for whatever reason you like him, stop being a fucking pussy about it. Yeah, he actually wouldn't do that. He actually wouldn't do that because he'd be too busy fixing our economy and straightening up the mess in Washington. Shut up. Have fun. We got JM from Prickwillow, UK. JM from Prickwillow in the UK. Now, if that's not a classic name for a UK town, I don't know what is. For you guys that aren't familiar with British town names, doesn't have to be British. It can be Irish, Scottish. Prickwillow. That sounds like a classic one, except it should have Shire at the end. Prickwillow Shire. You could even add a ham to Prickwillow Shire ham. Prickwillow-Shireham Forest. That's where I'm from. Thanks for listening, JM. We got Trevor from Sacramento. Sacktown, you better back down before you get a smackdown. That sounded like a lyric from the band Limp Bizkit that I mentioned earlier. That's 2 Limp Bizkit references in this podcast. I think they did say back up before you get smacked up, if I remember correctly. You don't act up, back up, or you'll get smacked up. I'm pretty sure is a Limp Bizkit lyric. I'm not sure. We got Martin N. from Oakland. We got Sacramento, then Oakland right back to back. But you know what? That's not how my tour works. I am not doing a show in Sacramento on this tour. I am absolutely doing a show in Oakland, California, though. Very soon. That's in a couple weeks. Couple weeks, y'all. A couple motherfucking weeks. That will be on... that's the 3rd show of the tour on 11/11. November 11th. God damn, that's coming up soon. Oakland, California at Starline. Please go to wax.com to see all these dates, y'all. Please come out and check this shit out. Come out and say what's up. I will say this. My popularity is not at an all-time high. If you come to one of these shows, especially in a place like if you come to one of the shows in towns that aren't as heavily populated, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of people at a lot of these shows. But, you know, if we're talking Lancaster, California, Fresno, California, Bend, Oregon. I have a feeling that in Bend, Oregon, there won't be that many people. And I say that to emphasize that if you want to just fucking come up to me and talk, say what's up, holler, that will be something that's totally possible. You know, after every show, I'll be at the merch table saying what's up, signing shit. And I bet you at some of these small towns, it won't be like a line situation. It'll just be a bunch of people hanging out, you know? If you want the podcast to come to life, you know how in this podcast it's me talking, and like I said before, it's just a dictator saying whatever he wants to say. You know, and you've had a question. You emailed me a question before. I didn't answer it on the podcast. I might have answered it typing back to you, but not on the podcast. If you want to hear me answer your question that you asked to me live, almost like a fucking town hall presidential debate, except I'm not debating anybody. I'm just answering your question. If you want to make that a reality, the podcast comes to life. I'm going to start saying, I think. You know, not only do you get to witness musical performances by me and the Palmer Squares and DJ Skits, not only do you get to witness that, once that ends, the podcast comes to life. Can't get enough of me talking? Come see it firsthand. Say what's up. Speaking of firsthand, shake mine. We got Spencer B. Don't have a town for that one. We got Brandon, a.k.a. B Legend. We got the one and only, the almighty Chris M. from Michigan, which is the last show we're still fucking working on and having trouble. I don't know what it is about Michigan. Every tour I play in Detroit. Every fucking tour I play in Detroit, and it's always an awesome show. I got a lot of fans there. For me to not do a show in Detroit, or at least in the Michigan, you know, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Pontiac, somewhere, Flint, I don't know, some fucking where in Michigan. I got fans there that want to come see the show, but we're having trouble securing a date, securing a venue. People just don't believe in me there that run places. Do they not believe in me? I don't know what's going on. We also got Alexander the Salamander. And that is the last for the shoutouts today. All right, here's the first email. This is from Roland R. Okay, your consistency with the podcast has gotten out of hand. I'm having trouble keeping up. I've gotten used to the one podcast every other month or so. This madness has to slow down. Maybe you should go back to smoking and drinking. This sober wax is just way too irresponsible. You did an album. Some videos on the side. Well, not really. Not too many. And all the podcasts. Plus, you're going on tour. I can't handle this dependable alter ego of yours. Nah, I'm just joking. I just happened to get on Facebook a minute ago and saw that you posted another podcast after I just listened to your last podcast a couple of days ago. I'm actually appreciative of your hard work. God, it never feels like I work hard. It never feels, I'm wearing pajamas right now. I shouldn't even own pajamas. It's funny, I have these pajama pants. I don't sleep, I don't sleep in pajamas. I fucking sleep butt naked, y'all. That's just how I roll. I think it's more comfortable. But I wake up and I put pajama pants on for my work day. That's how I work. I do not work hard. I just wrote all that to say this. Thanks. Maybe I'll do my shows in pajamas. That'd be fun. I'll do the tour in pajamas. That would be cool. The podcast comes to life. Thanks for continuing to deliver skills in your rhymes. I don't know about other people, but when I hear nice rhymes, it relaxes me. No matter what is going on in my life, I can tune it out once I hear dope rhymes. I guess it's sort of like when people hear certain music. I know it probably sounds weird, though, but whatever. That's all I wanted to say. LOL. Well, I appreciate that, Roland. I believe Roland is talking about the fact that in some of my music, some of the songs off my most recent project, I do put effort in. There is a level of quality control. I'm not saying I'm the best rapper, but when it comes to the rhymes, there is a level of quality control that I feel puts me above certain other people. That said, the problem is, and this is going to sound arrogant as fuck, I think that I'm over a lot of motherfuckers' heads. I think that a song like the song I put out, granted, it has no fucking social value. It has no political value. It has no real value in society. This song could not exist and nothing would change. But the song Chunky, if you really think about some of the bars there, like it's shit that people ain't fucking with, man. Like it's just more clever. And it doesn't really matter, you know what I'm saying? It's like if some clever, smart person ran against Donald Trump, Donald Trump's going to win because more people can relate. I don't know how. I really never understand what he's talking about, so I don't know. But anyway, Roland, I appreciate you noticing that there's skills in the rhymes. Skills in the rhymes. Fucking, what was that one? Rap like your drunk uncle behaves and say, fucking, I'm going in like spelunkers to caves. Say, I just don't hear too many people saying interesting shit like that. Like I said, it's not really interesting because it actually means nothing. It's just a clever way to say that I'm clever, which, is not going to solve the world's problems. It's not going to feed the world's hungry. It's not going to quench the thirst of the world's dehydrated. But it will put a smile on Roland R's face. It will soothe him in a way that, quote unquote, certain music does to other people. It will relax Roland R. I think the R stands for relaxed. Or maybe the R stands for rhymes. Rhymes relax Roland. R. Next, we got Ryan M., the songwriter. Ryan says, I attached a rough of a song I started the other day. It seems to get a laugh when I played acoustic. I feel pretty strong. And that was a great song, by the way, Ryan. You gotta finish that shit, man. So Ryan goes on to say, I feel pretty strongly that inspiration is a fleeting emotion that fleets faster as you get older. If I'm inspired these days, I have to catch it really quick because I don't know when I'll feel that way again. The song I attached will probably take several months to release just because that's the way it works for me, but it made me think of a question for you. In terms of production, writing, and release, what is the quickest you've ever gotten a song out, and what is the longest it's taken you to get a song out? Also, do you think there's more of a benefit to getting content out quickly or taking your time? Hope you're doing well, and you should get Herbs on the podcast soon. Well, I appreciate that. I'm doing pretty well. I hope you're doing well, Ryan, and I will try to get Herbs on the podcast soon. We don't hang out as much as we used to, man. Anyway, as far as inspiration, there's a couple things that I thought of on this. First of all, a recommendation from me to you. I think I posted it on my Facebook a couple weeks ago. There's an interview that came out. The interviewer is Rick Rubin, and the interviewee is Kendrick Lamar. I think it was done Had something to do with GQ magazine. And you got to get through the first 10 minutes. Like, some people turn it off because the first 10 minutes are a little slow. But once they kind of get to know each other's vibe, it becomes really interesting, especially if you're a musician or an artist or a creative type in general yourself. And the part of the interview that this reminds me of is he's talking about that song All Right, which, of course, from To Pimp a Butterfly was really the only song that became like a big single. And not only was that song a big single, but it was like a protest song with all the shit going on, all the police shit, all the racial shit going on in America right now. It really came at the right time. We gonna be all right. It was a big song for that purpose, and just an awesome song in general. The beat, the content, the flow, the cadences, the delivery, everything about that song, at least in my opinion, was incredible. And when he talked about making that song, and it turns out he had the beat for a long, long, long time. And the beat already had the hook. Pharrell made up the hook and had the hook on the beat. And he just sat on it because he knew that it was so good that he had to get it right. It wasn't one of those things like, if you're familiar with music, a lot of people it always got on my nerves, always gets on my nerves. A lot of people brag about how fast they are. People brag about how fast they write songs. How about take whatever time is required and write good songs? How about that? So Kendrick Lamar sat on this thing for months and one day he just was like it snapped. It was like he was like, "Oh shit, that's what this should be." And sometimes you get lazy. Sometimes you just sometimes you'll be like surfing around through your hard drive and find like old stuff you were working on, or I find old ideas in what used to be notebooks and now is my notepad app, or my voice memos. I use the voice memos app on my phone all the time for ideas for music, and now ideas for comedy and shit like that. Speaking of Rick Rubin, another recommendation by me for Wax's podcast. I believe it was called Funky Monks. I think the documentary was called Funky Monks, but the Chili Peppers back in the early 90s recorded the process of making their album Blood Sugar Sex Magic, which was produced by Rick Rubin, as a documentary, and the biggest song from that album was Under the Bridge. I think, interestingly enough, looking back now, I think the more timeless song from the album was actually Give It Away. At the time, Under the Bridge was this huge fucking song, and it still obviously is a classic timeless song, but looking at it now, the song that gets the more play now on radio, you know how they do on rock radio, they always play like 90s shit. They play all the new shit, but they sprinkle in Smashing Pumpkins and Pearl Jam and old Nirvana and shit, and it seems like to me, like, as far as current radio play, you're way more likely to hear Give It Away than you are Under the Bridge. Maybe that's just 'cause the nature of the song. It's an upbeat song rather than like a slow, heartfelt ballad or whatever the fuck. But, Under the Bridge came about because Rick Rubin found an old poem in Anthony Kiedis' notebook or something like that. Like, you don't know what idea is going to spark something. And if you can write a song in 15 minutes, great. Maybe it'll be the best song of all time. I've written songs in 15 minutes. A lot of the songs that I write on acoustic guitar that are just simple little ditties, I write real fast, and then sometimes it takes a long time. But what's the longest it's ever taken me to get a song? I know, let's look at my past. The last project I put out, the Cookout Chronicles, I was sitting on Never Thought I'd Be in Love Again for a long time. But I think that one, it wasn't that it took me forever to do it. It was more that it just took, it's more that I just never put it out. It didn't really go with Living Foul. So it was at least a year old because I was working on it at that time. The So High joint was an old idea. That was a super old idea. But then, especially back when I was really going hard with the YouTube shit, a song like Low Budget, for example, like something that was just put out for YouTube. It's kind of like you spend a couple days working on it, then it's out and done. You don't do anything for 2 days except that, or 1 day except for that. Low Budget had a song called what's that song called? Do You Think It Would Be Okay? Like, that went from nothing to YouTube video in 2 days or something, but I didn't do nothing but work on it. So my point is for you, Ryan, there's really no answer to that question. You know, you can write something in 10 minutes, but he's talking about putting it out. I mean, that for that, it really depends on what you're trying to do. Like for people that are high up in the game, sometimes they'll have to wait to put it on their album. But I guess in this day and age, like if you're in the studio and you make something and it's kind of clear that it's dope, but it's not going to be on your album, people just throw it out on SoundCloud the night of, I suppose. Suppose that works like that sometimes. Oh fuck. Shit. Okay. Hold on 1 second. No, I'll just keep going. Whatever. Shit, I got a text. Hold on 1 second. Fuck. All right. Got something going on. I got to finish this podcast. Good thing is I only have a couple more questions here. All right, this is Luke. Luke from the UK. I've always felt really connected to your song, I Should Have Tried Harder, from Continue. I've pretty much coasted through my entire life so far, and I'm now in my final year at university. At the age of 20. To be honest, I probably don't deserve to have come this far after putting in such little effort. But alas, I've been bumping that song for 3 years now, and although I'm aware of my shitty work ethic, I still struggle to motivate myself. I've always done well, but I know I could reach an even higher level if I just applied myself. Do you feel like you've managed to push yourself more in the last couple of years? If so, what did you find that helped? Also, I'm glad you're bringing back Chain Reaction. I appreciate you making another series, and I look forward to what it has to offer. Stay safe out there, man. Yeah, so Luke from the UK. Yeah, man, Chain Reaction coming back. Already got 4 episodes shot. Shooting one more before I bounce. Gonna have a quick 5-episode season 3 of Chain Reaction for the winter time. And when I get back from tour, we'll see how we want to go from there with that series. You know what I'm saying? I really enjoy I know I've said on the podcast I wasn't going to continue doing it, but sometimes joy outweighs logic. I like doing the shit. I like reviewing the restaurants. I like making up jokes about hamburgers. As far as I should have tried harder, I think that, I was just talking to my brother about this yesterday. I think the fact is, some of us just have that in the back of our heads. The phrase, man, if only I would have worked harder. And it's sometimes if you really compare yourself to other people, which you shouldn't do, there's always going to be people that work way harder than you and people that work less hard than you. But you know what? A lot of the people that work less hard than you, they don't spend half their fucking time beating themselves up about it. Like, yeah, maybe, you're in college. Maybe you feel like you don't work hard enough because every single time you relax, you technically could be working. That's how I kind of feel. Like I get, Roland R said something about me working hard. I'm like, what? What do I do? But I shoot Chain Reaction. I do this podcast. I'm about to go on tour. I just put out an album. Holy fuck. I do a lot of shit. But I never give myself the credit for it. And after a day's work, I feel like I didn't do anything for some reason. Maybe that's a sign of having a good job. I don't know. But the fact is, as far as finding things that, like you said, do you feel like you've managed to push yourself more in the last couple of years? No, I don't find that that's the case. If anything, I've pushed myself less. I used to push myself more. The point in my life where I was pushing myself the hardest was when I first moved to LA. The first 2 or 3 years when I moved to LA, that was 2008 through 2012, even into 2013. The last couple of years, I've kind of been taking it easy and refiguring shit out. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I don't know what people do to push themselves. People have goals. There's some people. I think some people, when they push themselves, they're trying to prove to others that they can do something. You know what really grinds my gears and what really gets me going is when somebody says you can't. When somebody tells me I can't get it done, I always want to get the job done that much harder. And then there's some people that are doing it for maybe money, financial gain. I think some people do it for pussy. I think a lot of times people work hard in music because they want to get women. So it's women, money, to prove something to somebody else. Speaking of women, maybe You know, I swear to God, man, when I first started working hard, when I moved to LA, I think that there was definitely some, like, I'll show her for my ex-girlfriend. I definitely think there was a little bit of I'll show her in my drive and motivation. And dude, honestly, if that's part of it, don't beat yourself up about that too. Just anything that you can use to make you work harder, I guess, could be potentially a good thing. But at the same time, every single person I know, every fucking friend I have tells me, especially recently, every friend I have tells me that I beat myself up too much. All right, thanks, Luke from the UK. I got another email here. This one is from my mom. And I just wanted to read this one. I don't know how much I'll actually pay attention to. Whatever. I listened yesterday to the latest podcast. I'm still one behind because I missed the one before that. Here's my advice. Men get better with age to women. Women get worse. Also, the word is grass skirt. I said palm leaf skirt, I believe. Be happy with the life you have, and if you can't change it, if you can't be, change it. Count your blessings. If you can't go to Hawaii, go to Disneyland. There's a great luau in one of those Polynesian restaurants. Well, I've been to Disneyland a few times. Twice I've been to Disneyland. I don't remember that Polynesian restaurant. The problem is, Mom, the time you've been to Disneyland, which I don't think you've ever been to Disneyland, first of all. You might be thinking of Disney World. We went to Disney World when I was like 5. If you have been to Disneyland, it was in that time that I was mentioning earlier when the Beach Boys were popular. The time that I mentioned in the last podcast when the Hawaiian culture was popular in popular culture. Everybody was obsessed with Hawaii, and probably at that time you went to a Polynesian restaurant in Disneyland. At that time, Disneyland was very small. Just like one roller coaster and one Ferris wheel, and then a Polynesian restaurant with a luau. They're like, we got real Hawaiian girls, and they were just girls from Mexico that they put grass skirts on. That's how they did it back then. But I just wanted to read, according to my mother, men get better with age to women. Women get worse. That's pretty funny. I think she's just trying to be nice. But that's also just, women do bear the brunt of all. Speaking of those old videos I was watching the other day, I watched an old James Bond video, and there was this hot Hollywood starlet from the 60s. And she was bad. Her name was Ursula Anders. But then it shows her now, She's a senior citizen. And I thought, man, it's a lot harder for a beautiful woman, especially a woman that made her living being beautiful, probably formed, whether on purpose or just because people would fucking tell her that all the time, probably, and because of the time she lived in. A lot of her identity was in her physical beauty. And when that shit starts to fade away, it's got to be difficult. You know what I mean? All right, this is the last one. We got Rory Smith. Rory Smith from England. I'm just going to try to keep this as quick as I can. I'll start by saying I've been a fan ever since Grizzly season. Rap isn't my favorite by a long way, but you're one of my favorite musicians and by far my favorite rapper. The bluesy funk rock influences in your songs are what makes them stand out from the rest. I appreciate that, Rory. Okay, so I know a few months back you broke up with your girlfriend. I'm only 20, but my girlfriend of 4 years broke up with me last week as she's now at university, and wants to be free without hurting me. We were both each other's first, and I could relate to what you said as her parents loved me, treated me like family. We all went on a holiday every year, and they were a massive part of my life. What's your advice for getting over someone like this, as I've done some pretty dumb shit and made some dumbass drunken phone calls? Ooh, we all know that. Your podcasts have been amazingly therapeutic and helped me keep my head straight and focus on my life in this difficult time. Funnily enough, a week before that, one of my dogs died. The lines to top it off, your dog died, then your girl left, now you're contemplating suicide has never been so relatable. Ha ha ha. Rory Smith. I didn't mean to say your last name, but we all make mistakes. P.S. Come back to England. Because I got that text and somebody's coming over here real soon, I think that I'm reading this too fast, but I will say this. When you get an email from somebody, I had the exact same thing happen to me when I was your age. It was like 2 or 3 years at that time. Then I ended up getting back with the girl for like a year, if that. But it was the same thing. Family loved me. I went on vacation with them once, and I was just fucking crushed. And I've kind of received that when it comes to like relationship advice emails on Wax's podcast, it really only goes one way. It's kind of like, I'm heartbroken. What the fuck can you tell me to do? And unfortunately, man, after like my third really, really bad one, it's kind of like there is no right answer. You just have to fucking take the pain. It's kind of like if you're in one of those, if you're in a country where they do caning, or if you're, or if you have a parent that spanks you when you're bad, you just have to fucking take the pain. And it hits you, and it hits you, and it hits you. But after a couple hundred hits or however many, you start to feel it a little bit less, and then one day it's kind of gone. So, unfortunately, when it comes to like having your heart broken, you just have to wait it out, bro. You just have to fucking wait it out, and you know what? You got to take the pain. And there's truth in what they say. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's kind of like a rite of passage. There are some people out there that the first girl that they're with ends up being the girl they're with forever, and that is what it is. That's one way that people live, and I guess they don't have that fucking massive heartbreak. Hopefully, I don't know. Then I can't imagine how bad it is when one of them dies, but most of us have to deal with that shit. And the only way that I've figured, it's not like you can take a pill. I mean, maybe you can take Prozac or something. I don't really know. But you kind of just got to take the fucking pain. That's just kind of the way that life works, unfortunately. It's sad, Rory. It is sad. And I know that probably didn't help you too much, but one day, as weird as it may sound, one day you're going to wake up and be like, dude, I really don't care anymore. And then you get with another girl, then you start to love her, and the same shit happens again. And you're feeling that pain, and you just got to let it be there. Then you start stalking her fucking internet pages. That's how it is nowadays. Back in the day, people got over relationships faster. People got over relationships faster back in the day because you couldn't look at what the other person was doing. And it really is true, out of sight, out of mind, especially with pictures, man. If you can see the picture, that picture gets etched into your mind. Like, don't look at your ex's fucking Instagram page or her Snapchat or Facebook or whatever. Because the pictures, man, they get etched into your mind. Like I said, man, we didn't always have the ability to do that kind of shit. You're not supposed to be able to do that kind of shit. That social media is ruining us. More people are depressed now than ever, and it's because of fucking social media, and it's only going to get worse. You're not supposed to be able to do this shit. You're not supposed to look at your ex's fucking Instagram, which is not her real life. Her real life is not her Instagram. She might be just as fucking hurt as you, but when you look at her Instagram, looks like she's having a good time partying her ass off, doesn't it? I bet you it kind of looks like that on your Instagram too, doesn't it, Rory? Doesn't it, Rory S? All right, cool. I am going to sign off and be safe out there.